Hey, thanks for joining us on After
Yeah,
Dark
good
this
talking.
evening. And I'm just going to
Yes.
just speak up a little bit more, and I'll just get a good level
Yeah,
for you.
sure. Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. Oh,
Hey, thanks
great.
for joining us. A couple of things we could talk about many things, but one of the things I'd
Yeah.
specifically like to talk about is your work in housing initiatives with the council. And there's
Yep,
been some
sure.
good progress recently. Can you fill us in with what you've been doing?
Yeah, sure. I can, Nick. Everyone, first of all, the first instance with the change over the asset ownership and then tenancy management of council housing, so a shift to community housing trust, the tenancy managers, they've also uh, gone ahead in the area of development. So the council firstly capitalised that trust with 50 million to get going, and then we've lent them 30 million to enable 180 units to be built. We've also given community housing providers like them a change in our policy over developer contributions. So the council itself and Housing New Zealand are exempt because in Housing New Zealand's case, sheer quantum of loss would be great. But for other, community housing providers, there's a DC rebate which would account to about $18,000 savings on each unit built. That's an important part of the contribution, I think, Nick, to the overall ongoing program of building the city.
You you came up with a particular initiative, didn't you? What was that?
Sorry, what was that question again?
I believe you came up with a particular initiative that you've been driving forward. What was that?
Yeah, well, that was the DC rebates that came through the Housing Committee in the last term and was approved in this term as well. So that's that developer saving contribution for housing of 18,000 each unit. So I was quite pleased over that. But I also promoted a housing policy for the city, which seeks to address housing right across the spectrum, whether it's homelessness right through to home ownership. And we've all had a part to play in that. We are part of the Housing First homeless collective in the city, seeking to get people off the streets. Social housing next along the spectrum, of course, has always been our stock and trade since the 1930s, and now with shared equity too, we're hoping to launch that scheme in October this year to try and get people into their own homes, more easily and reclaim a bit of that Kiwi dream. We also have the Healthier Homes part, or rather Healthier Homes Canterbury, that we do. It used to be called Build Back Smarter, and that enables people through us and ECAN to find a comprehensive insulation program for their homes, to make their homes warm and drier. So there's a lot that we do there, and at the ultimate end of the spectrum, there's the Homestar 10 promotion we do as well, and there's a tour around some of those homes coming up in the city. So there is a lot that they're coming.
Can we just have a little chat about what affordable means?
Yep.
I think we lost was it about 17,000 homes in the earthquakes?
Yes, well, we lost about 7,000 in the residential red zone, but I guess if you talk about, houses that were totally had to be across the city, I imagine it would be about that, but of course those came down to the particular insurance outcome, whether it was a rebuild or a repair, so it was a massive amount.
Now, a lot of those houses weren't worth anything like the average value of the rebuilds. So
Right.
Somebody might have been living in a house that was worth 180, 240,000.
Yep.
But, with many years on now and these houses are being rebuilt,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hard to get anything under 500, to be honest, looking at these
Yeah.
developments that are going up. So
Yes, you did right.
there's a huge problem
and
there.
there is a huge problem. In housing policy, we've attempted to land on a definition of affordability for Christchurch, and we landed, I think, the year before last on about 370. So that was seen at the lower end of the quartile there. But that was the measure is, what is the total gross annual income of a household, and then multiplied by 3, that effectively should be what your cost should be in terms of house purchase. So say you have a combined household income of 120,000, then you should be paying no more than 360 for a home. But we know that multiplier is way out.
Yeah, because the problem is that
the reach in Christchurch.
The problem is, and we only have figures that go back to 2017, I think. But then the not the mean, not the median. Yeah, the mean, the average income.
Yeah.
Was about 40. No, it was only about 38,000 or something.
Right.
But that was for an individual.
Yeah.
So that would push the household income, if 2 people are working, up to about maybe 80. And 3 times that is 240. Yep. So that's only half the 500 that is being touted around as affordable.
Yeah. Oh, I agree, and it shows you, I think, the extent of the problem that we have, particularly when, the housing problem is, quote, fixed, and it's not. You're absolutely right in terms of that multiplier and affordability. And if Christchurch is a bit better in terms of the rest of the country, we really have got problems. So I think, we might have an excess housing stock of about 2,000, but it doesn't mean that we're more. And some sectors, of course, like social housing, we still have big challenges.
Do you have any figures on whether people have started leaving yet because they just can't afford to live here anymore?
Yeah, sure. The figures on what? Sorry, on
people leaving the city because they can't afford to live here anymore.
Yeah, no, I don't, Nick. I don't have any data on that. But yeah, no, that's a fair enough question. Do you have any approximate figures yourself, or the last known figures?
No, it's just that I look at my own circumstances and I think, well, how long can I sustain this for? Obviously, it's all to do with your income, I mean, I'm very much an urban animal. I need to sort of be in the city to function, really. But I imagine quite a lot of people might be thinking, well, maybe we should move south or over to the coast, where you can get a lot more house for your money.
Yeah, that could well happen. It could be that migration out of Auckland to look for affordable homes isn't actually necessarily going to be towards Christchurch, although for some, relatively, we will appear. Yeah, if you want to get something affordable in the main cities, it's pretty tough going.
Okay, well, look, thanks for talking about the housing side of things. Now, obviously, you're standing for re-election again. Was this your first term as a councillor?
Yes.
Okay, are you pretty happy with how you've? Are you pretty happy with how you've done?
I think I am, Nick. Thrown in, it was a baptism of fire, so I hadn't been on a community board or anything like that for 20 years as a minister of religion, Presbyterian minister, and then effectively elected between the September and February earthquakes. And during term, my council colleague, Councillor Chrissy Williams, who stood down, so I just had to take the initiative over things such as housing, calling housing summits, and promoting the concept of an insurance tribunal through the council for my constituents. What I was hearing on the door was the loss of QE2, difficulties with EQC and the private insurers. So I took Dean Lester's idea of an insurance tribunal, promoted it through the council. We ended up with residential advisory service for thousands of claims. But it's been really tough going, and ever since then I've done my best to stand up for the East. But it's been a real baptism of fire.
It would seem that your time as a minister was very good training for this. So you're obviously good on your feet and used to dealing with people.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was actually. I mean, I was telling someone the other day, I was in a suit kind of 1 minute and then into trackies or shorts and T-shirts after the quakes, and it was really, really tough. It was a case of... if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs in the eastern side of the city, people wanted food and water and shelter. And then on the other side, people are out playing tennis and golf. And that's just how it was. It wasn't anyone's fault. It's just the particular corridor of the quake and the land coming together. And it was pretty tough going. But I think my training meant I was used to grief, including community grief, and used to anger, which is a part of grief, used to listening to people in an active way and being there for them and taking initiatives with community leaders over setting up hubs to meet some of those primary needs. So at least it was something I was used to in terms of community-wide shock and grief. So I just backed myself and went for it.
Now we're going to have Aaron Kewen on the program in his capacity as a member of the DHB.
Right.
What are your thoughts on the hospital parking situation?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I know when I was the minister at St Andrews, we at Rangiruru, that new church was built in Merivale Lane next to the Rangiruru school, but it still owned the triangle of land by the hospital. And through the lease, it helped to pay my stipend and one or two other people. But that triangle of land there, Antigua, Oxford, we always thought would be ideal as a multi-level hospital car parking building. But that didn't happen. Cllr compulsorily acquired the land, but the parking wasn't put in. Now, I know there's a whole schedule of Crown agencies which are or are not exempt from some of the resource management requirements, such as parking, and it appears the Crown, in terms of that build of the new hospital, has been, along with the Justice Emergency and the Justice Precinct. So it's really caused some issues.
That's interesting, because you would think that resource consent for the new part of the hospital, which we definitely needed,
yes,
and for the Justice Precinct, would not have normally been granted without provision of parking.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone else has to abide by that, and that's imposed on everyone. Yet we have this exemption, and it's given rise to all sorts of problems. So, you would think it would be a given.
So would it be fair to suggest, then, I'm not saying that this is the case, but at the time, given the powers that Cllr had and that the Minister Brownlee had, that he decided to just push forward regardless?
Yep. What did I say? Sorry, I didn't quite get the first part of your question.
No, I was suggesting that perhaps the powers that Cllr had and that the minister had, they were able to circumvent the usual planning requirements.
Oh, they were. As Kennedy Graham said at the time, when the Cllr legislation was introduced, it was draconian. And, power is one thing, but its effectiveness is another. And so, how good was that power? People talk about cutting through things. I know with the RMA, the notification provisions have declined over time to supposedly speed things up, but it's meant the community's been cut out of the conversation. And in this case, common sense was cut out of the equation over the simple fact of needing parking there for people to access an emergency service and to visit relatives, etc. So, something went out the window.
Okay, Glenn, how long have we got till the local elections?
We've got about 14 weeks, I think.
Oh, it's a way off yet. Yeah, goodness me.
Yeah,
okay.
It is,
Well, it's been really good talking to you on the programme this evening.
Yeah,
and we're going in the spirit of fairness. We always want to hear from other people who are running as well, so we'll be approaching them and getting them to come on. But there's plenty more that we can talk about, because I know that you're a very busy councillor, and it'd be great to have you back on the programme again.
Yeah, I'd like to do that, Nick, and thank you for offering this format to the community in terms of promoting interest in the local elections. We really need to lift that. So anything that you're doing to do it and getting across various candidates, I think is a really good thing.
Well, this program's all about community engagement and giving people a voice and hearing both sides of the argument, or several of them. So, Glenn, thanks for joining us this evening. That's great stuff.
Yeah, good.
Cheers. Righty-ho, that was Glenn Livingstone here on After Dark. I'm Nick Pegg. Our phone number is 027 257 9672 if you'd like to call us and contribute to the programme with your ideas or thoughts. Right, coming up very shortly, I'm going to be speaking to Danny Valentine, who's just opened a Retropolitan.